I'm Valerie, 29, and I've spent my life trying to earn my mother's approval only to watch her instantly adore my ex-girlfriend Jessica, who destroyed my trust. The ultimate betrayal came when Mum defended Jessica even after catching her cheating. Now Jessica has scammed my mother out of her retirement savings, and suddenly Mum wants to reconcile. The irony would be almost poetic if it weren't so painful. Before I tell you how my own mother chose my cheating ex over me, let me know where you're watching from. Hit subscribe. If you've ever had family take an outsider's side over yours, trust me, you're not alone in this journey. Growing up with my mother, Margaret was like constantly auditioning for a role I would never get. No matter what I accomplished, she always seemed to find more value in others than in me, her only daughter. I remember when I was 8, my friend Tiffany broke my favorite porcelain ballerina figurine, a gift from my grandmother, and instead of comforting me, my mother scolded me for making Tiffany feel bad. She didn't mean it, Valerie. Stop being so dramatic. That phrase, "stop being so dramatic," would become the soundtrack of my childhood. As I entered my teenage years, this pattern continued. When my high school friend borrowed my favorite sweater and returned it with a massive stain, my mother told me I should have known better than to lend out something I cared about. When my prom date stood me up and I cried all night, she suggested I must have done something to drive him away. There was always this underlying message: other people's feelings mattered more than mine. Despite this challenging dynamic, I excelled academically. I fell in love with computers early on and decided to pursue computer science. My mother, an artist who taught at the local community college, couldn't understand my interest in technology. "Computers don't have souls, Valerie," she would say. "Art speaks to the human experience." She pushed me toward following in her footsteps, but I stood my ground. It was one of the few times I didn't bend to accommodate others at my own expense. College was my escape. I thrived in the computer science program at Washington University, making Dean's List every semester. In my senior year, I met Jessica during an advanced programming class. She sat next to me on the first day, her confident smile and quick wit immediately catching my attention. Unlike many in our male-dominated program, Jessica was outgoing and sociable. She wore bright colors in a sea of neutral hoodies, and her laugh could fill a lecture hall. I was instantly attracted to her, but also hesitant. Jessica flirted with everyone, professors included, and had a reputation for being something of a player. I'd watched her cycle through several relationships, none lasting more than a few months. I kept our interactions strictly friendly for the first semester, despite her obvious interest. "Come on, Val," she'd say, using the nickname only she called me. One coffee isn't a marriage proposal, but I knew myself. I didn't do casual, and I wasn't interested in becoming another notch on Jessica's belt. Everything changed during spring break of our senior year. Most students had left campus, but I stayed behind to work on my capstone project. Jessica stayed too, claiming she needed to catch up on coursework. One night, she brought dinner to the computer lab where I was working. "You need to eat, Val. You can't code on an empty stomach," she said, unpacking containers of my favorite Thai food. I was touched by her thoughtfulness. That night, as we walked back to the dorms under a blanket of stars, Jessica stopped walking suddenly. "I know you think I'm not serious about you," she said, her usual confidence faltering. "But the truth is, I've never felt this way about anyone. I keep dating all these wrong people because the person I really want seems to think I'm not good enough." The vulnerability in her voice caught me off guard. For the first time, I saw beyond Jessica's carefully crafted exterior. We talked until dawn, sharing childhood stories and dreams for the future. By the time the sun rose, we'd shared our first kiss, and I was falling hard. The next 3 months were like living in a dream. Jessica was attentive, passionate, and seemingly devoted. She integrated herself into every aspect of my life, and I into hers. We made plans for after graduation, both applying to tech companies in Seattle. When we both received job offers, mine at a major tech corporation as a software engineer, and hers at a smaller startup as a UX designer, it felt like fate was confirming our path forward. We found an apartment together in a trendy Seattle neighborhood, a small but modern one-bedroom with a view of Elliott Bay. My salary was higher than Jessica's, so I paid a larger portion of the rent, which she promised to balance out once she made it big in the tech world. 3 months after we moved in together, my mother came to visit. I was nervous about the meeting. Margaret had never been particularly supportive of my previous relationships, often finding fault with anyone I cared about. To my surprise, she and Jessica hit it off immediately. "Your mother is amazing, Val," Jessica said after Margaret left. "I can see where you get your eye for detail, though you definitely didn't inherit her fashion sense." She laughed, kissing me to soften the joke. I laughed too, though something about her comment made me uncomfortable. Over the next year, Jessica and my mother developed an unexpected bond. They texted regularly, met for lunch when my mother visited Seattle, and even went shopping together, something my mother had rarely done with me. I tried to see this as a positive development. Wasn't it good that my girlfriend and mother got along so well? Margaret invited me to her art exhibition next month, Jessica mentioned casually one evening. She says you probably won't be interested since you're so busy with work, but she really wants me there. I was hurt that my mother had assumed I wouldn't attend her exhibition and hadn't even bothered to invite me directly. Still, I pushed the feeling aside. That's great. We can both go, I said. Jessica looked uncomfortable. Actually, she kind of just invited me, but I'm sure she wouldn't mind if you came too. I didn't attend the exhibition. Instead, I stayed home and worked on a project while Jessica spent the weekend with my mother. When they returned, they had inside jokes I wasn't part of and stories I hadn't shared. The distance between my mother and me seemed to grow in direct proportion to her closeness with Jessica. Meanwhile, my career was taking off. I received an early promotion and substantial raise after leading a successful product launch. Jessica's job, on the other hand, wasn't going as well. Her startup was struggling financially, and she frequently complained about her boss's inability to recognize talent. He keeps rejecting my designs for no good reason, she'd fume. Men in tech just can't handle a confident woman with better ideas than theirs. I tried to be supportive, helping her refine her portfolio and even putting in a good word with some contacts at my company. But Jessica seemed to grow increasingly resentful of my success, rather than appreciative of my support. Not everyone can have daddy pay for the best coding camps growing up, she said once after I received recognition at a company all-hands meeting. The comment stung because she knew very well that I'd worked multiple jobs to pay for my education and had never had financial support from family. Looking back, I can see these were early warning signs. But when you're in love, you tend to explain away the red flags, making excuses for behavior you would never tolerate from anyone else. I was about to learn that lesson the hardest way possible. The shift in our relationship wasn't sudden but gradual, like watching the tide slowly erode a shoreline. About 18 months into our relationship, Jessica began to change. The affectionate texts throughout the day stopped. Our evening conversations grew shorter, often interrupted by Jessica checking her phone with a smile she wouldn't explain. Work stuff, she'd say dismissively when I asked who she was texting. Nothing interesting. She started coming home later, claiming her team was working overtime to meet deadlines. Some nights she'd smell faintly of alcohol and perfume I didn't recognize, explaining that her co-workers had dragged her to happy hour. I tried talking to her about the distance I was feeling. I miss us, I said one night, as we lay in bed facing away from each other like strangers. It feels like we're drifting apart. Jessica rolled over and stroked my hair. You're imagining things, Val. I'm just stressed about work. Not everything is about you. She kissed me quickly, then turned away again. Some of us are still trying to prove ourselves at work. The comment stung, implying that my concerns stemmed from selfishness rather than legitimate feelings of disconnection. I began to doubt myself. Was I being too needy? Was I making problems where none existed? Then came the first concrete reason for suspicion. Jessica had left her phone on the kitchen counter while showering, and it lit up with a message preview from someone named Alex. Miss you already. Last night was... The rest was cut off, but my heart sank. I stood frozen, staring at the notification until it disappeared. When Jessica emerged from the bathroom, I asked her casually, "Who's Alex?" Her reaction was immediate, a flash of panic quickly replaced by irritation. "A coworker. Why are you checking my phone?" "I wasn't," I said truthfully. "A message popped up while your phone was on the counter." "So you're spying on me now, nice Val." Really healthy relationship behavior. She grabbed her phone and walked away, leaving me feeling like I'd done something wrong by asking a simple question. The next day, I called my best friend Tara for advice. Tara and I had been friends since college, and she had always been my voice of reason. "I don't want to jump to conclusions," I told her, "but something doesn't feel right." "Trust your gut," Tara said, "but also gather facts before confronting her again. People get defensive when accused, even if they're innocent." I decided to talk to my mother, hoping for similar support. During our call, I mentioned my concerns about Jessica's changing behavior. "Oh, sweetie," my mother sighed. "Jessica works very hard. You've always been a bit possessive in relationships. Remember how you used to call me constantly to check in when you were little? Some people need space to breathe." I was stunned. Mom, I'm not being possessive. I'm noticing actual changes in her behavior. Well, relationships evolve, she said dismissively. Perhaps you're putting too much pressure on her with your intensity. Jessica mentioned you've been a bit controlling lately. My blood ran cold. Jessica talked to you about our relationship problems before talking to me. She needed someone to confide in Valerie. Don't make this bigger than it is. You've always had a flair for drama. After hanging up, I sat in hurt disbelief. Not only had Jessica been discussing our private issues with my mother, but my own mother had immediately taken Jessica's side without even hearing me out. Meanwhile, Jessica's secretive behavior continued to escalate. She began to guard her phone zealously, taking it with her even for quick trips to the bathroom. She changed her password, which she'd previously shared with me openly. I also noticed concerning financial behaviors. We had maintained separate accounts, but had opened a joint savings account for future goals like travel and eventually a home down payment. I discovered Jessica had made several withdrawals totaling over $4,000 in the past month. When I asked her about it, she became defensive. I had some unexpected expenses. Since when do you monitor my spending like an accountant? It's our joint savings, Jess. We agreed to discuss any withdrawals over $500. Fine, I should have told you. But I needed the money for my car repairs and to help my sister with rent. Happy now, I accepted her explanation, though a nagging feeling persisted. Jessica's sister Amanda was a successful pharmacist who had never mentioned financial problems during our few meetings. The final red flag appeared when I was reconciling our credit card statement. There were charges from a hotel downtown on a Tuesday night when Jessica had claimed to be working late. I searched the hotel online and discovered it was just blocks from her office. That evening, I carefully brought up the charges. I noticed some hotel expenses on our card. What were those for? Jessica didn't miss a beat. Work retreat. We rented rooms to work through the night on the project launch. The company will reimburse me next pay cycle. She sounded so confident, so matter-of-fact that I almost believed her. Almost. That's interesting, I said, keeping my voice steady. Because I called the hotel today to check if they had meeting rooms available for my company's event next month, and they mentioned they don't host corporate retreats. They're strictly a boutique hotel for travelers. Jessica's face hardened. Are you investigating me? Seriously, I can't believe you'd call and check up on me like I'm a child. She stormed out of the apartment, claiming she needed air. I sat alone, my suspicions now impossible to ignore. Something was very wrong, and I was done doubting myself. They say the truth reveals itself in the most unexpected moments. For me, that moment came on a Wednesday afternoon when a migraine forced me to leave work early. I hadn't texted Jessica to let her know I was coming home, partly because she rarely responded to my messages lately, and partly because I simply didn't think about it through the throbbing pain in my head. The elevator ride to our 7th floor apartment felt eternal. All I wanted was to take my medication, close the blinds, and lie down in our dark bedroom. I fumbled with my keys at the door, the hallway lights intensifying my headache. When I finally pushed the door open, I heard music playing softly from our bedroom, strange since Jessica should have been at work. Jess, I called out, dropping my bag on the entryway table. No response, but I heard hurried movement from the bedroom. Thinking Jessica might be sick too, I walked toward the sound. The bedroom door was partially open. I pushed it wider and froze. Jessica was there hastily pulling a shirt on, but she wasn't alone. A tall woman with short blonde hair sat on the edge of our bed buttoning her jeans. Our bed, the one we'd saved for months to buy. Val, Jessica's face drained of colour. You're supposed to be at work. The blonde woman looked between us, eyes wide with realisation. You said your girlfriend was working until 7, she said to Jessica. A strange calm washed over me as the pieces clicked into place. You must be Alex, I said, my voice steadier than I expected. Valerie, I can explain. Jessica started stepping toward me. I held up my hand. Don't bother. I think I understand perfectly. Alex grabbed her jacket from the floor. I should go. I'm sorry I didn't know she told me you two were basically broken up. The betrayal sliced through me anew. Basically broken up, we live together. We have joint accounts. We talked about getting engaged next year. My voice finally broke on the last sentence. Alex looked genuinely shocked, then angry. She turned to Jessica. You told me you were just roommates who used to date and were ending the living arrangement soon. You said she knew about us. Jessica looked trapped between two furious women. Alex, wait. But Alex was already pushing past me toward the door. Don't call me again. I don't do liars. The apartment door slammed behind her, leaving Jessica and me in a silence that felt like a physical presence. "How long?" I finally asked. Jessica sank onto the bed, head in her hands. "Val, please." "How long?" Each word felt like broken glass in my throat. 4 months, she whispered. But it wasn't serious until recently. I was confused. "You've been so wrapped up in your career success and I've been struggling. Alex understands what I'm going through because she works in my field. She gets my creative process in a way you never have." The audacity of her making this my fault ignited something in me. "Get out," I said quietly. "What?" "Get out of our apartment, now." Jessica's expression hardened. "You can't just kick me out. My name is on the lease too. I pay rent here." "Actually, you haven't paid your portion in 2 months. You said you were short and would catch up later, remember?" My mind was suddenly crystal clear, cataloguing all the lies and manipulations. "You've been withdrawing from our savings to fund your affair, haven't you? Those hotel charges weren't work retreats." Jessica stood up, defensive now. "You're being dramatic as usual. We need to talk about this rationally. People make mistakes, Valerie. Relationships are complicated. The only complicated thing here is how quickly you can pack your essentials and leave. You can arrange to get the rest of your things later when I'm not here. And where am I supposed to go?" "I don't care. To Alex, to a hotel. You seem to enjoy the Kimpton downtown room 718, right? Our credit card was charged for that room 3 times last month." I was surprised by my own collected anger. Jessica's eyes narrowed. "You know what, fine. This isn't working anyway. You're too controlling, too obsessed with your precious job. You never gave me the emotional support I needed." "Save it," I said. "Just pack and go." As Jessica angrily stuffed clothes into a duffel bag, I stepped into the hallway and called my mother. Despite everything, she was still my mother and I needed support. Margaret answered on the 3rd ring. "Valerie?" "This is unexpected. I'm in the middle of preparing for a class." "Mum," my voice cracked. "I just caught Jessica cheating on me, in our apartment, in our bed." There was a long pause. "Oh, honey, are you sure that's what was happening? Jessica mentioned you've been having some trust issues lately." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Trust issues, Mum? I walked in on her with another woman. There's no ambiguity here." "Well, relationships are complicated, sweetheart. Did you talk to her about why she might have felt the need to look elsewhere? You know your father and I went through something similar once and—" "Stop," I interrupted. "Just stop. My girlfriend of almost 2 years cheated on me, and you're immediately looking for ways this might be my fault. I'm not saying it's your fault, Valerie. I'm just suggesting that these situations aren't black and white. Jessica has been under a lot of pressure at work, and she's mentioned feeling neglected because of your long hours." The betrayal cut deep. Not only had Jessica been confiding in my mother about our relationship without my knowledge, but my mother was actively taking her side even now. "She's been lying to me for months, Mum, stealing from our savings, taking another woman to hotels on our joint credit card. People make mistakes when they're unhappy, Valerie. Maybe this is an opportunity for both of you to reassess your priorities. Jessica really loves you. She tells me all the time how much she wishes you were more present in the relationship." I heard Jessica in the background emerging from the bedroom with her bag. My anger reached a breaking point. "You know what, Mum? Don't worry about it. I'll handle this myself like I've handled everything else in my life. Now you're just being dramatic." "What?" My mother sighed. "Call me when you've calmed down and can discuss this rationally." I hung up, turning to face Jessica, who was heading for the door. "My mother sends her sympathies," I said bitterly. "Apparently I should be more understanding about why you needed to cheat on me." Jessica had the decency to look slightly ashamed. "Margaret means well. She just wants us to work through this. There is no us anymore, and there's certainly no us that includes my mother. Give me your key." Jessica handed over her apartment key reluctantly. "This isn't over, Valerie. We have financial matters to settle. I'll be in touch." After she left, I locked the door and finally let myself break down. I called Tara, who came over immediately with ice cream and wine. "I can't believe your mom took Jessica's side," she said after I recounted the conversation. "That's beyond inappropriate." I spent the next week in a haze alternating between grief, rage, and disbelief. I changed the locks, contacted our landlord to begin the process of removing Jessica from the lease, and froze our joint account after transferring half the remaining balance to a new personal account. I documented every unauthorized withdrawal Jessica had made, totaling nearly $8,000 over the past few months. My mother called several times, but I let each call go to voicemail. Her messages were all variations on the same theme: I was overreacting. Jessica deserved a chance to explain. I should consider couples counseling. The final straw came when my mother texted, "Jesse, este. Jessica is really torn up about this. She made a mistake, but she still loves you. She's staying with a friend now, but says she'd come home if you'd just talk to her." I finally responded, "Please stop contacting me about Jessica. If you can't respect my feelings in this situation, then we don't have anything to discuss." My mother's reply was immediate. "You've always been quick to cut people off when they don't agree with you. Jessica says that was a major issue in your relationship. I raised you to be more forgiving than this." I blocked her number that night, feeling a strange mix of liberation and deep sadness. I had lost my girlfriend and my mother in the span of a week, yet somehow the silence was preferable to their gaslighting. The month following the discovery of Jessica's affair was a blur of logistical nightmares and emotional tsunamis. I had to untangle our intertwined lives thread by painful thread. There were bills to separate, automatic payments to cancel, shared streaming services to divide. Each task was a reminder of what I'd lost and the future that had been stolen from me. Jessica texted me 27 days after moving out. "I need to come get the rest of my things. When will you be out of the apartment?" I arranged for her to come on a Saturday when I'd be at Tara's place. I couldn't bear to see her again, to watch her pack up her books and clothing from the space we'd built together. I left a box of her toiletries and small items by the door and put a note on the kitchen table. "Please leave your key in the lockbox outside when you're done." When I returned that evening, her presence lingered like a ghost. Empty spaces on shelves, hooks without coats, the bathroom cabinet half bare. She'd taken some things that weren't hers: a throw blanket. My grandmother had made me 2 novels I'd bought before we met, the expensive coffee maker I'd received as a work anniversary gift. I decided to let it go. No object was worth prolonging our connection. 2 days later, Jessica texted again. "We need to talk about money." "I'm coming by the apartment tomorrow at 7. I responded, "I won't be opening the door. Any financial matters can be discussed via email. I've already documented your unauthorized withdrawals from our joint savings." Her response was immediate and threatening. "Those weren't unauthorized. We lived together, we shared expenses. I'm entitled to half of everything we saved, plus compensation for improvements I made to the apartment. My father is an attorney, Valerie. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." Despite my determination to avoid another face-to-face encounter, Jessica showed up at the apartment the next evening. She rang the buzzer repeatedly, then started calling my phone. I sat on the couch shaking as my phone lit up with her name over and over. Finally, I answered. "I told you I don't want to see you." "Well, I'm here now," she said. "Let me up or I'll wait in the lobby until you leave for work tomorrow. Your choice." Knowing she was stubborn enough to do exactly that, I buzzed her in, bracing myself for the confrontation. Jessica looked different. She'd cut her long brown hair into a stylish bob and was wearing clothes I'd never seen, expensive-looking clothes. She strode into the apartment like she still lived there, eyeing the rearranged furniture with disapproval. "You moved the couch," she said. "It looks terrible there." "What do you want, Jessica?" She sat down without being invited. "I want what's fair. I put just as much into this relationship as you did financially and emotionally. I'm entitled to half our savings." "You've already taken more than half," I said, pulling out my phone to show her the bank statements I'd downloaded. $8,324 in withdrawals over 3 months. Care to explain where that money went? Jessica's confidence faltered momentarily. "Living expenses. Times have been tough. Tough enough to need cash while you were charging hotel rooms on our credit card." I was proud of how steady my voice remained. "I'm living with Alex now," she said, abruptly changing tactics. "We're talking about moving to San Francisco. Her company has an office there." The casual way she mentioned her affair partner felt like a slap. "Congratulations. I don't see how that's relevant to anything." "I need money for the move. I know there's still about $10,000 in the joint account. I want my half." I laughed without humor. "You've already taken your half plus some of mine. I've frozen the account and documented everything for potential legal action." Jessica's expression darkened. "Legal action for what? We weren't married, Val. You can't sue me for breaking up with you." "No, but I can report fraud for the unauthorized withdrawals and credit card charges that you made while actively deceiving me about our relationship status." Yeah. I was bluffing somewhat. I had no real interest in a legal battle, but Jessica didn't need to know that. "You wouldn't dare," she hissed in. "You'd drag both our names through the mud for what? Revenge? For justice," I corrected. but I'm willing to consider this matter settled if you leave now and stop contacting me. I'll even throw in the coffee maker you took and the other items that weren't yours." Jessica stood up, furious. "You know what? Keep your precious money. Alex makes 3 times what you do anyway. We don't need your charity." "Great, then we're done here." I walked to the door and held it open. Jessica paused at the threshold. "Your mother thinks you're making a huge mistake, by the way. She called me yesterday to check if I was okay after all your irrational behavior. At least someone in your family has a heart." The comment was designed to wound, and it succeeded. I closed the door without responding and leaned against it, listening to her footsteps fade down the hallway. Only then did I allow myself to cry. Over the next few weeks, I discovered just how thoroughly Jessica had poisoned my social circle. Mutual friends began to distance themselves. One finally admitted why. "Jessica said you were controlling and emotionally abusive, that you monitored her spending and tracked her location. She showed us text messages where you were threatening her." I was floored. "She showed you texts where I threatened her. Those don't exist." My friend looked uncomfortable. "She had screenshots, Val. I don't know what to believe, but it doesn't look good." I later learnt that Jessica had manipulated conversations, taking my texts out of context, or possibly even fabricating screenshots entirely. By the time I realized the extent of the damage to my reputation, many friends had already chosen sides. Most chose hers, the charming, vivacious Jessica, who was clearly the victim of my possessive behavior. The professional impact was equally devastating. My work performance suffered as I struggled to concentrate. I made careless errors in code that would have been unthinkable before. My team leader noticed, calling me in for a concerned chat. "You've always been one of our strongest engineers, Valerie, but lately your work hasn't been up to your usual standards. Is everything okay?" I considered lying, but opted for a simplified truth. "I'm going through a difficult breakup. It's been affecting my concentration. I'm working on it." She was understanding, suggesting I take a few days off and connecting me with the company's employee assistance program for therapy resources. I was grateful for her support, especially when I discovered that Jessica had applied for an open UX position at my company. Thankfully, my team leader discreetly ensured her application was passed over. Therapy became my lifeline. Dr. Winters, a compassionate woman in her 50s, helped me process not only Jessica's betrayal, but the deeper wound of my mother's rejection. "Your mother's behavior suggests a pattern of prioritizing others over you," she observed during our 3rd session. "Have you noticed this dynamic before the situation with Jessica?" That question opened a floodgate of memories all the times throughout my life when my mother had taken someone else's side against me. Dr. Winters helped me see that my mother's treatment of me wasn't my fault, nor was it something I could fix by trying harder to please her. "Some parents," she explained gently, "are simply incapable of providing the unconditional support their children need. This isn't a reflection on you, Valerie. It's a limitation in her." Those sessions gave me the strength to maintain the boundary I'd set with my mother. Though she continued to leave occasional voicemails, I didn't respond. The space allowed me to focus on rebuilding my life without the constant undermining of my feelings and experiences. 6 months after the breakup, I had established a new normal. I'd moved to a different apartment in another neighborhood, unwilling to continue living in a space so tainted by betrayal. I'd reconnected with friends who had seen through Jessica's manipulations and made new ones through a coding meetup group. My work performance had recovered, earning me consideration for another promotion. Just as I was finding my footing, my phone rang with my mother's number. I nearly declined the call out of habit, but noticed she'd called 3 times in the past hour, unusual even for her. Something might be genuinely wrong. I answered cautiously. "Hello?" "Valerie." My mother's voice sounded strange, strained and smaller than I remembered. "I know you don't want to talk to me, but I need your help." "Mum, what's wrong?" Despite everything, alarm rose in my chest at the unusual tone of her voice. There was a pause filled only with the sound of my mother's uneven breathing. "It's about Jessica," she finally said. I think she may have taken advantage of me." A cold knot formed in my stomach. "What do you mean? Can we meet in person, please? I don't want to discuss this over the phone." My instinct was to refuse to protect the boundary I'd established, but curiosity and lingering concern won out. "Fine. There's a coffee shop called Rainy Day on Pike Street. I can meet you there tomorrow at noon." "Thank you, Valerie." The relief in her voice was palpable. "I'll be there." I hung up immediately, questioning my decision. What could Jessica possibly have done to my mother that was serious enough to breach our months of silence? Part of me suspected this might be another attempt to reconcile me with Jessica using a fabricated crisis as bait. I texted Tara, "My mum just called, wants to meet about Jessica supposedly taking advantage of her." Tara's response was immediate. "Trap or legit?" "No idea. Meeting her tomorrow at rainy day. If I don't text by 1 p.m, send search party." The next day, I arrived at the coffee shop 15 minutes early, securing a table near the back where we could talk privately. I ordered a latte and watched the door anxiously, half expecting to see Jessica walk in with my mother. When Margaret finally entered at 12:05, I almost didn't recognize her. My mother had always been meticulous about her appearance, perfectly styled silver-streaked hair, tasteful makeup, artistic but professional clothing. The woman who approached my table looked diminished somehow. Her hair was pulled back in a hasty ponytail, her face bare of makeup revealing dark circles under her eyes. She wore a simple sweater and jeans instead of her usual carefully curated outfits. "Valerie," she said, sliding into the seat across from me. "Thank you for coming." I nodded, withholding any warmth. "You said this was about Jessica." My mother's hands trembled slightly as she placed them on the table. "Yes. About 6 weeks ago, Jessica contacted me. We'd stayed in touch occasionally after your disagreement." "Disagreement," I repeated flatly. "That's what you're calling her cheating, and you're taking her side." She flinched. "I deserved that. But please, just hear me out." I gestured for her to continue. "Jessica called me very upset. She said her mother had been diagnosed with an aggressive form of cancer and needed specialized treatment not covered by insurance. She was desperate for funds to help her mother start treatment immediately." I frowned. "Jessica's mother has excellent health insurance through her job at the university. She's a department chair." My mother's face crumpled. "I know that now. But Jessica said her mother's condition was complicated, requiring experimental treatment in another state. She said they needed $30,000 for the initial consultation and treatment plan." $30,000? I repeated, incredulous. "And you gave it to her?" "I did." My mother looked down at her untouched coffee. "I withdrew it from my retirement fund. There was a penalty, but I believed her. She was so convincing, Valerie." She cried. She showed me medical websites about the condition. She even had what looked like medical reports. "Let me guess," I said, already seeing where this was going. "Once you gave her the money, she disappeared." My mother nodded, a tear slipping down her cheek. "Completely. Her phone number is disconnected. Her social media accounts are gone. I went to her workplace and they said she quit weeks ago. I tried contacting Alex but got nowhere. I even drove to her parents' home in Portland last weekend. And let me guess again, her mother is perfectly fine and has no idea about any cancer diagnosis." "Exactly." My mother wiped her eyes. Her mother was shocked when I mentioned it. Said Jessica had visited briefly about a month ago but seemed fine. Mentioned something about moving to California with her girlfriend. I sat back processing this information. Part of me, a small petty part, wanted to feel satisfaction that my mother had finally seen Jessica's true nature. But mostly I felt sick that Jessica had stooped to such a deplorable scheme. "I'm sorry that happened to you," I said, surprised to find I meant it. "But I'm not sure why you're telling me. What do you expect me to do?" My mother looked up, her eyes red-rimmed but determined. "I'm not expecting anything, Valerie. I needed to tell you that you were right. About everything. I should have believed you. I should have supported you. Instead, I let myself be manipulated by someone who was using both of us." I can see. The apology I'd wanted for so long landed with unexpected hollowness. "And the money?" I asked. "Is that why you really called me? You need financial help now?" My mother flinched again but nodded slowly. "I hate to ask, but yes, I'm in a difficult position. That money was meant for my upcoming hip replacement surgery. I've been putting it off for years, but my doctor says I can't delay any longer. Without that fund, I don't know what I'll do. So after everything, after taking Jessica's side when she cheated on me, after calling me controlling and dramatic after maintaining a relationship with her, despite knowing how much it hurt me, you want me to bail you out." "I understand if you refuse," she said quietly. "I wouldn't blame you. I've been a terrible mother to you, Valerie. Not just during the Jessica situation, but for years before that. I've been reflecting a lot lately, trying to understand why I always seem to favor others over my own daughter." "And have you figured it out?" I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice. "I think..." She paused, struggling. I think I've always been jealous of you in a way. You're everything I wasn't at your age: confident, successful, independent. I married your father when I was 22 because I was too afraid to be on my own. My art career stalled because I never believed in myself enough to take risks. When you came along so strong-willed and self-assured, even as a child, it triggered something in me. I stared at her, stunned by this admission. So you undermined me at every turn, sided with everyone else against me. That was your solution to being jealous of your own child. I'm not proud of it, she whispered. It wasn't conscious, Valerie. I didn't wake up each day planning to hurt you. It was a pattern I didn't recognize until recently when I started therapy. You're in therapy, she nodded. After Jessica disappeared with the money, I fell apart. My doctor recommended counseling for depression. Dr. Garcia has been helping me understand my patterns, especially with you. I sat in silence, unsure how to process this new information. On one hand, I appreciated my mother's honesty and self-reflection. On the other, it didn't erase years of pain or her recent betrayal. I don't expect forgiveness, she continued when I didn't speak. And I'll find another way to handle the surgery costs. I just needed you to know that I see the truth now about Jessica and about how I've treated you. The money, I said finally. How much do you need for the surgery? The procedure itself is mostly covered by insurance, but there's a $5,000 deductible plus costs for post-operative care and physical therapy. In total, probably around $12,000. She looked embarrassed. I've never been good with finances. Another area where you surpass me. I made a decision, surprising myself. I won't give you the money outright, but I'll help with the medical expenses directly. Send me the surgery details and bills, and I'll make arrangements to pay them. Hope flickered in my mother's eyes. You'd do that, after everything. I'm not doing it for you, I said honestly. I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do and because I don't want to be the kind of person who turns away someone in genuine need, even if that person has hurt me. Thank you, Valerie. I don't deserve your help. No, you don't, I agreed. And this doesn't mean I'm ready to have you back in my life. If we're going to have any relationship moving forward, there need to be serious changes and boundaries. Anything, she said quickly. Whatever you need. First, you need to continue therapy, and I want us to eventually have some joint sessions once I'm ready. Second, I need you to respect my boundaries completely. No pushing, no guilt trips. Third, I want complete honesty between us, even when it's uncomfortable. And finally, I need time and space. This doesn't fix everything in one conversation. My mother nodded solemnly. I understand and accept all of those terms. I'll do whatever it takes to earn back even a fraction of your trust, Valerie. As we parted ways outside the coffee shop, she moved to hug me, then stopped herself, respecting the distance I'd established. It was a small gesture, but it gave me the first glimmer of hope that perhaps eventually we might build something new from the ashes of our broken relationship. That evening, I filed a police report about Jessica's fraud, though the officer warned me that without direct evidence of her intentions, it might be difficult to pursue charges. I provided them with all the information I had, including her connection to Alex and their possible relocation to California. Even if we can't recover the money, the officer explained, filing this report creates a paper trail. If she's done this to others, or does it again in the future, these reports build a case. I wondered how many others Jessica had charmed and manipulated before us, and how many more might fall victim to her schemes. The thought was depressing, but I took comfort in knowing I'd done what I could to potentially protect future targets. Over the next few weeks, my mother kept her word, sending me updates on her therapy sessions and details about her upcoming surgery. I made arrangements to pay the hospital directly, setting clear boundaries around my financial assistance. Through mutual connections, I learned that Jessica and Alex had indeed moved to San Francisco, but their relationship had already begun to deteriorate. Apparently, Alex had caught Jessica in several lies and suspected her of financial infidelity. The news brought me no satisfaction, only a sense of validation and closure. Jessica's pattern would continue until she chose to change, which seemed unlikely. I was simply grateful to be free of her toxic influence. As for my mother, our path forward remained uncertain, but not without hope. The layers of hurt and betrayal couldn't be erased by one conversation or one act of assistance, but perhaps they could be slowly replaced by new experiences based on honesty and respect. For the first time in years, I felt truly in control of my relationships, establishing boundaries based on my worth rather than others' approval. It was a painful way to learn that lesson, but sometimes the most valuable truths emerge from our deepest wounds. 1 year passed since that coffee shop meeting with my mother, a year of cautious rebuilding and careful boundaries. Margaret's hip replacement surgery went well, though her recovery took longer than expected. I paid the medical bills as promised, but maintained emotional distance, allowing our relationship to evolve at a pace that felt safe for me. 2 months after her surgery, we began joint therapy sessions with Dr. Garcia, who skillfully mediated our difficult conversations. In those sessions, I learnt that my mother's tendency to side with others against me stemmed from her own childhood with highly critical parents who never validated her feelings. I developed this belief that to be loved, I had to please everyone except myself, she explained during one particularly raw session. When you stood your ground and advocated for yourself, something I never learnt to do, it triggered my deep insecurities. Instead of admiring your strength, I tried to break it down to validate my own choices. Understanding the root of her behavior didn't excuse it, but it helped me contextualize the pattern and recognize it wasn't about my worthiness of love. This realization was profoundly healing, allowing me to separate her limitations from my value. Our relationship slowly improved. We established a routine of weekly phone calls and monthly dinners with clear agreements about respecting boundaries. When she occasionally slipped into old patterns, I could now calmly point them out, and she was usually receptive to the feedback. Meanwhile, my professional life flourished. I received the promotion I'd been working toward, becoming a senior software architect with a substantial salary increase. My team respected my technical skills and leadership, a validation that helped heal the professional insecurities Jessica had tried to exploit. I remained single by choice for most of that year, focusing on rebuilding my relationship with myself. Therapy helped me recognize the red flags I'd ignored with Jessica and understand why I'd been vulnerable to her manipulation. I learned to value the quiet strength of self-sufficiency and the peace of a drama-free life. 10 months after the breakup, I met Samantha at a charity coding event where professionals helped teach programming to underprivileged teens. Sam was a cybersecurity specialist with a quick wit and genuine compassion that immediately drew me to her. Unlike Jessica's performative charm, Sam's warmth felt authentic and undemanding. We started slowly coffee after volunteer sessions, then occasional dinners. When she asked me about my previous relationships, I took a risk and told her the full, unvarnished truth about Jessica. "That's incredibly painful," Sam said when I finished the story. "Thank you for trusting me enough to share it." "I want to be completely honest," I explained. "My ex made secrecy into an art form, and I never want to build a relationship on anything but total transparency." Sam reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I value that. And just so we're clear, I'm not seeing anyone else. I have no interest in your mother's retirement fund. And I don't make a habit of sleeping with people in our shared bed." Her joke made me laugh genuinely, something that had been rare during the past year. Good to know. Those are definitely deal breakers for me. As our relationship deepened, I introduced Sam to Tara and my other close friends, all of whom approved enthusiastically. "She looks at you like you're actually a person, not a possession," Tara observed. "That's refreshing after Jessica." Meeting my mother was a bigger step, one I approached cautiously. I invited them both to dinner at a neutral restaurant, setting clear expectations with my mother beforehand. "I really care about Samantha," I told her on the phone. "This dinner is important to me, and I need you to be supportive without being overwhelming." "I understand," she promised. "I'm just happy to see you finding joy again, Valerie." To my pleasant surprise, the dinner went well. My mother was warm but respectful, asking Sam thoughtful questions about her work and interests without dominating the conversation. When Sam excused herself to the restroom, my mother leaned across the table. "She's wonderful, Valerie. Completely different energy from Jessica, much more authentic." "I know," I said, unable to suppress a smile. "And thank you for being so appropriate tonight." "I'm trying," she said simply. "Every day." Through a mutual acquaintance, I learned that Jessica and Alex's relationship had imploded spectacularly in San Francisco. Alex had discovered that Jessica was running similar financial scams on multiple people, including Alex's family members. The fallout was apparently dramatic enough that Jessica had fled California altogether, leaving significant debt behind. When I shared this news with my mother, her response surprised me. "I've been thinking about filing charges," she said. "The police told me it's still possible, and if she's doing this to others..." "That's your decision," I told her. "I'll support whatever you choose." "I think I need to do it," she said with newfound resolve. "Not just for the money, which I've accepted may be gone, but to create a record that might protect someone else." I felt a surge of respect for my mother's courage. "That's a strong choice, Mom. Do you want me to go with you to the station?" "I'd appreciate that," she admitted, "but only if you have the time." "I'll make the time," I promised. As I reflect on the past year, I'm struck by how much has changed. The betrayal that once felt like it would define my life now feels like an important but contained chapter, a painful lesson that ultimately led to greater wisdom and stronger boundaries. I no longer blame myself for missing the red flags with Jessica. As my therapist helped me understand, manipulators like her are skilled at targeting kind, trusting people who see the best in others. The problem wasn't my capacity for trust, but her willingness to exploit it. My relationship with my mother will never be perfect. Too much history exists between us for complete healing. But we've found a new foundation based on honesty, appropriate boundaries, and mutual respect. She continues her therapy, working to understand her patterns and change them. I've learned to accept her limitations while protecting my own well-being. As for Sam, our relationship continues to grow at a healthy pace. We've been dating for 2 months now, taking things slowly and communicating openly. Where Jessica brought drama and intensity, Sam brings stability and genuine connection. I've learned that real love feels calm and secure, not anxious and uncertain. The most important relationship I've rebuilt, though, is the one with myself. I've reclaimed my ability to trust my own perceptions and stand firm in my truth, even when others try to undermine it. I've learned that walking away from toxic connections isn't failure, but self-preservation. When someone shows you who they truly are through betrayal, believe them the first time, but also believe in your own power to heal and move forward. Betrayal may leave scars, but those scars can become marks of resilience rather than permanent wounds. Have you ever experienced betrayal by someone you trusted completely? How did you rebuild after that trust was broken? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if this story resonated with you, and share it with someone who might need to hear that healing is possible even after the deepest betrayals. Thank you for listening, and remember, your worth is never determined by how others treat you, but by how you choose to treat yourself.